friend, CG Tech Talk, and today I'm going to talk about this guy. This is the Dell XPS 8930. The XPS actually stands for Extreme Performance System. Now, how much of an extreme performance system is packed into this, I'm going to show you by just opening up the door, and we're going to take a look at the insides, and we're going to talk about it. So, let's go ahead. One of the things that I like about the Dells, and forgive me for any sounds of this thing getting rattled around, is that it is almost toolless. They used to be a lot more toolless, but nowadays there's a couple screws that I had to remove to be able to get to some of the things I wanted. But to actually open up the side panel, everywhere else you pretty much have to remove 2, sometimes 3 screws on here. Here you just gotta pop this back open, and out comes this little door. And when you remove that door, you got all the guts. Look at this thing. It's pretty compact. I'm surprised. I have been working on these things for a while, not just the XPS lines, but just computers in general, and I'm finding them to get stubbier, but still retaining everything that they need in here. So once you've removed that, there's a couple of other little pieces in the back here that have to be lifted up, and then 2 screws here to get removed. Once that's out, you can actually open this guy up like so. Oh my god, dropping stuff. And this is what it's like. By making the power supply come out and essentially keeping it over the motherboard instead of above or below. Oops, I kind of did that. It is removable and just set on top of it. This model comes with an i7 8700. It's the non-K version, so if you're wanting to overclock or try to keep this going for a little longer, you're going to be out of luck, because the K denotes the ability to add different voltages. This one does not have it. So once this processor starts going out and starts becoming a bottleneck, there's nothing really you can do. But it is an i7 8700, so that means that it's going to come with 6 cores, it's going to come with 12 threads, and it will be really good for whatever you throw at it. It wasn't as big of a bump as the previous generation, but it's still a really good processor. I mean, if you're going to go any higher, you're going to start looking at like i9s and all that other stuff. The stock Intel cooler could be a little better. I've never really cared for stock. I think there should be some they should always be a little bigger. But, you know, it is what it is. This one also comes with an 1050 Ti, which is actually surprising. I have one of them and it came with all the cool little plastics, and I felt like that's what the cooling was. It turns out the cooling is just this guy, this little fan right here. This has a M.2 slot, which this model did not come with one, which is surprising. I would assume that Extreme Performance System, as XPS is called, it would at least have, you know, a 128 or a 256 in there. No, this one only has a 2 terabyte platter drive. That's one thing that I really don't like about this, is that it just comes with the platter drive. Obviously, I mean, it's a computer. You can add whatever you wanted to it. But out of the box, this one only had it. It might have been because of where he purchased it at, but it is what it is. You have, in the front, you have 3 USB 3 slots and a USB 3.1 Type-C. In the back, you have a whole bunch of ports as well. Just close it, see if I can't get this closed up. One of the things that I liked about this is that it does come with 2 3.1 Type-C ports, because I'm a Pixel owner and I like it when you start seeing some of the future and the little less rectangles. But at the top you have USB 2.0. There's 2 slots here. You have a gigabit NIC. It comes with a DisplayPort and HDMI, which is rendered moot because of the 1050 Ti. Down on the bottom, you have 3 USB 3 ports and a USB 3.1 Type A, I believe, port, along with the Type C. Now, these guys are the blazing fast ports. These are the ones you're going to want to use if you can. If you have an older external drive or something like that, it's not going to work in Type C, and you're not going to get all the speed on that. But if you go buy a fancy new external drive, it's going to go a lot faster. Trust me. What else did I like about this thing? I did enjoy the fact that it had 3 slots for hard drives. So if you wanted to put an SSD in here and a couple of platter drives, or if you wanted to put 3 platter drives in there and just have a whole bunch of storage, that would be super cool. But when I think of extreme performance system, I don't think of a 1050 Ti and a platter drive. So I don't think this is going to win any benchmarks or awards. But it should be able to play a lot of games pretty decently, especially with the 1050 Ti, because that thing, as long as you're running a 1080p screen and you're not trying to push 4K, you should be able to get a lot of your games surprisingly on high settings if you decide to play games on this. If you're doing CAD or just little like Microsoft Flight Simulator or some of the older games, this should do just fine. The only thing that I wish this had in it was an M.2 drive, but I know they're expensive, and in the price point, you have to figure out where you can cut from for your budget and things like that. Overall, a little stubby guy. Turn this around. I like this guy, and if you do need a computer that is pretty good, but a pre-built that is not onboard graphics, you can't go wrong with this. Just try to make sure that you get an M.2 drive in it. It's super important. Really, like, my laptop boots up in 3 seconds compared to the 30 seconds it's going to take for this thing to hit the Windows all the way after a while. But, yeah, it is what it is. Good little guy.